We are live, and I tell you what, it's Wednesday evening. We've got a great feeling because, well, we're on WrestleMania season. So the big question is, have plans changed for WrestleMania? Are we really getting Brock Lesnar versus Omos? And if so, does that mean we are also getting Bobby Lashley versus Bray Wyatt? That's our top topic here today. We've got one question already, but you are going to be the ones that are in control of this show. It's 60 minutes maximum. We'll be answering all your questions, as many as we can in that time. I'm joined by a very special guest here today. You can see he's already sitting and waiting in the wings. It is none other than my good friend, Jonesy Chats Wrestling. Jonesy, how are you doing?
Very well. Thank you for having me back on your fantastic channel. It's good to be back. It's been a while since we've done a Q&A, so it's good to be back and breaking down all the news. I'm looking forward to it. And questions.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot going on since we were last around, and obviously, even just from a Q&A standpoint, a lot has happened over the last sort of couple of days. But the big topic there, we'll start with it: Brock Lesnar versus Omos. The challenge was laid out on Monday Night Raw from Omos and MVP. Now, I can't help but feel in the back of my mind we've just come off the pay-per-view Elimination Chamber, or premium live event, as some like to call it, and of course, we had Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley on that show. It ended in a DQ. There have been rumors for the longest time that the Hurt Business are going to reform. And with the fact that MVP's made that challenge on behalf of Omos, I do wonder if this is a trap for next Monday night on Raw. Now, I wanted to get your feelings on this, Jonesy, because first off, the Hurt Business is something we would like to see. But second off, it's more, do you believe that that could be a case, or is Dave Meltzer right with his reporting? Are we really going to get Brock Lesnar versus Omos? Is the planning actually in the works for this match to happen?
I think everything I've heard indicates that match is happening. They want to make Brock look good again after his feud with Bobby wasn't particularly successful. They want him to do what a lot of people haven't been able to do to Omos and get the dominating win, so to speak. I think it's an okay match. Doesn't really fill me with excitement. It feels a bit of a waste for Brock, in all opinion, really. I know Omos has got to be on the card, but it doesn't really strike with an exciting match. I think this would be more of a match for Saudi rather than WrestleMania, in all honesty. Doesn't really belong in WrestleMania.
No, it doesn't feel like a wrestling match to me either now. I mean, obviously, the motive, of why this match was put together to begin with, like you said, I suppose you said that Brock, they want him to look strong again. I suppose maybe it was a quick squash match, but Omos hasn't really done anything since the Royal Rumble. Before that, he had a match, obviously, at Crown Jewel. That match actually was pretty good with Braun Strowman. It definitely was above and beyond my expectations when watching that match. I thought it was going to be a horror show. It turned out not to be too bad. Do you think that they could do the same with this again?
I think because it's WrestleMania, the crowd will be into it regardless. It'll have low expectations, so maybe it'll be all right, but I just don't really know what the long-term purpose of it is. It seems a massive waste of Brock. You've been paying Brock all this money to put over future stars, and to not put over anybody at WrestleMania, it just seems to be a massive waste for me. I think it would be far better if he was in there with somebody like a Gunther. That would be a far more credible match, really. I think I'd much rather see Brock Lesnar face any other person on the roster besides Omos, I'm being honest. It's just not a fan.
No, I mean, me neither. I mean, obviously, you said there Gunther, which is a prime example name because obviously they had a stand down at the Royal Rumble. I guess other plans are in the works. Perhaps maybe we've got maybe Gunther versus Drew McIntyre or Sheamus in the triple threat match. That's certainly been going around the rumor mill as well. But at the same time, I'm with you. Gunther versus Brock Lesnar. If you're not doing Brock versus Bobby to finish off the feud once and for all with a definitive winner, Gunther would have definitely been my shout, would have been my choice. Like you said, there's many other names I would have preferred to see. But Jonesy, also, does that mean then we're getting Bobby Lashley versus Bray Wyatt? And I mean, if this match we're talking about here doesn't seem to make much sense, how it's just come together completely out of the blue, Bobby Lashley versus Bray Wyatt has that same kind of feeling.
Yeah, to me, it's almost like there's no organization. I don't want to speculate, but Vince McMahon, it almost screams Vince McMahon back to me, coming back, making decisions with no build. We saw nothing at Royal Rumble to build up to either one of these two matches. And yeah, it does look likely. I think obviously if you are going to get this White Six that we're hoping comes in and the Hurt Business back, it makes sense. I'm just wondering where Uncle Howdy fits in all this. I'm a bit devastated. We're not going to get Uncle Howdy at WrestleMania. No, I'm joking. I'm not devastated. But I guess this is just going to be a match. Really, I don't know really who will go over, but I feel sorry for Bobby Lashley. He seems to have ended up in a really bad spot. Like in this match, it just doesn't really strike me as what's the point of Bray and Bobby? There's no real history there. Like all Bray's vignettes since he come back, none of it relates to Bobby Lashley. So if apparently there's a long-term plan, I think they're making it up as they go along, mate. If I'm being brutally honest.
Yeah, it kind of starting to get that feel. I understand maybe the storyline, maybe there could be like a start, middle, and end. But like you said, the points to tick to get us to where we need to go to get to that final destination. I didn't strike Bobby Lashley as being one of the people that Bray Wyatt would need to go through. Like you said there, we're going through this, I suppose, embracing his, you know, his devilish sides, the stuff he's done in the past, the fiendish acts, let's just say, of Bray Wyatt. But to the same point of like, well, how does Bobby Lashley fit in this? Like you said, the guy has been part of the Hurt Business. He's been a dominant guy for the United States Championship over the last year. That's nothing that Bray Wyatt's been linked with in his entire career.
I think the only thing I can do to try and justify it is if this is a way of getting a stable versus stable feud out of it, then that kind of makes sense. But I wonder who's going over. That's the thing. Both of them are meant to be highly thought of. Bobby coming off a big sort of win via Brock via DQ. I'm not too sure. It's just an unusual match for me. I'm surprised. I really thought we'd get Uncle Howdy and Bray Wyatt based on everything. But to me, it's, as I said, it's Vince McMahon. I think they're just making up as they go along. Really.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Vince McMahon because obviously there has been some reports that maybe he was hands-on with the Bloodline storyline. I'm going to give a shout out to Tino's Time Wrestling or Tino's Time 1996 on YouTube. He actually sent me a link earlier on this evening being, of course, UK time, this afternoon, of course, for those in the States. Actually, something from Fightful Select suggesting the idea that Vince McMahon has been more involved with creative and that he had maybe heard that from a talent perspective. That was a tweet that I'd seen. I am actually going to try and find that tweet and put the link of that in the description here to see it. But hopefully more should be coming from Fightful Select on that report later today, if you're stateside, tonight if we're from the UK side. So it'd be interesting to see if anything is coming out with that. And I mean, let's be fair, Jonesy, you've been saying to me for quite a while now, you actually believe that Vince McMahon has been since coming back in. You've noticed little nuggets, let's say, in storylines that scream Vince McMahon to you.
Yeah, it's just disorganization. Like Triple H in the road up to SummerSlam, Clash of Castle was very organized, very meticulous. Even going into War Games, it was quite meticulous in large parts. But obviously, the build onwards from the Royal Rumble, it's just not been the best. And I think the way that they're doing these angles, like the Miz Golden Envelope, it's the golden egg all over again for me. It's them type of things. It's the same thing where there's no real thought. They're just literally putting stuff out there. I think Triple H has the overall say, but you just can't really trust it. In the Bloodline storyline, I don't know if that's Vince McMahon. I think that's Paul Heyman. I think that's Roman Reigns largely. I think that behind that, really, I wouldn't say sort of Vince is involved as such, but it's just worrying really if he's back because he always changes stuff all the time. Like you get into something for weeks and weeks and then it's just dropped and they don't have the decency then to explain it as per what we've seen before, really.
Yeah, as you say, card subject to change, and that's not necessarily what we want. We've got used to having a bit more of a settled, system under Triple H, under Paul Levesque, and obviously now if that is going to be the case, and now we're seeing it with this WrestleMania card, all of a sudden 2 matches that felt like we weren't building to whatsoever could be now actually on our doorstep. Maybe in one way that's great, it's exciting, it's intriguing, but at the same time, I'm not sure that I'm intrigued by these matches, and I'm not quite sure why. I have some theories why, but we're going to go into our comments quickly with KXI saying, what's going on, Stephen Jonesy? Thank you for checking out the stream as always. Anyone that is watching, feel free to throw in your questions. We'll be turning over to you on the way for us very, very shortly. We've got a couple of topics as well we would like to potentially discuss as well during this stream. But also, KXI goes on the same that this is just so weird. Like, why Brock versus Omos? That's a Saudi type match, as you said, Jonesy. They're only doing this so Brock can F5 Omos, which I suppose does feel like a WrestleMania moment, but is it one that we need?
I don't think it's one we need. Neither, like Brock, to be fair, doesn't really get anything from beating Omos. I don't really know where that happens. For me, I think they should have done this match probably at the Chamber and then saved the Bobby Brock finale for WrestleMania. That would have made much more sense. But yeah, it's not a match we need, mate. It's not really sort of something where Brock's gone from being a world champion in world title matches to just this mid-card match. It's a bit of a fall down the card, to be fair.
Absolutely. The only thing that can make sense of this is that perhaps maybe it's like a shorter match. Obviously, Brock doesn't tend to do as the longest matches, and they kind of feel, well, almost fits that rather than perhaps someone coming to WrestleMania and they have like a 4-minute match or something like that. It's the only way I can go around it. But you said it doesn't do much for Brock, but it would do a lot for Omos if he was one to pick up the win.
It would do a lot. It's where they go from him if he's seasoned or better. I think we've got to remember the back of our mind. If we look at wrestling history, Brock Lesnar was the one to beat The Undertaker. That streak has gone nowhere. It's not been given to anybody else. And that's kind of at the back of mind. It's just almost like it'd be nice if that's passed on. Yes, Drew McIntyre did get that win over Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania with no fans. But I'd like to see Brock put people over. He's not going to be there all year round. Let's see him put someone over, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it would be good to see him put somebody over. Kakesai saying they completely botched this Brock and Bobby feud. Awful feud. We'll have to agree that certainly over the 3 matches they've had, not one clean finish, and it just seems a little bit messy. Daz Reynolds in House, thank you, Daz, for your question. Says, any ideas when House of Black face the Elite in AEW? Of course, they had the trios match the Elite just recently, and afterwards there seemed to be a flicker of the House of Black. Jones, do you reckon this could be a match we could see at AEW's Revolution show coming from March the 5th?
It'll be on the pay-per-view. It'll be on Revolution.
I think we've summed it up very quickly there. I think that's what we're looking
on Revolution. Yeah.
It seems to be the direction. Just quickly, Jonesy, at this particular point, would you see a potential change in hands of the championships, or do you reckon that the Elite would keep hold of it at this early stage?
I think the Elite are going to keep hold of it. They've taken a while to win that best of 7 series, so I can't see them losing at this point. Although I'm a massive fan of House of Black, I think they've not had really a fair chance in AEW. I think Aleister Black can do some fantastic work, or Malachi Black. I'd really like to see them get some sort of push behind because they're very stop-start, which is unfortunate.
It is very unfortunate. I think that they would have been perfect for trios championships. The only way I think they could win those championships, if the rumors are true that Kenny Omega's contract is due up anytime now. But if that is the case, I would find it weird that they were trios champions to begin with. You don't want to be stung like it was last time. But Cody was like the TNT champion, then lost his last match and then went over to WWE. So I'm not sure I think that Tony would do that twice.
No, maybe not. I'm not too sure how true I think it is, the rumors of Kenny's contract being up. It seems very unorthodox of Tony Khan to let Kenny have one of the elite titles and then sort of just go to the opposition. But we'll see. Certainly a bidding war that WWE won't want to lose alongside the MJF one. But with MJF, while we're kind of on the subject of that, I think he signed a deal with AEW. I think this whole thing of him going to WWE is a storyline. The way that he's still got the world title, I know he's not had this match with Daniel Bryan at the pay-per-view yet. If he was going to go to WWE, I don't think AEW would be pushing him as hard as they are every single week.
No, I kind of agree with you. But the thing I hope is that it doesn't leak. If it leaks between now and the end of the year, they need him to be world champion for the whole year.
They do.
If they do that and then they just play that storyline, it would be beautiful. But if it leaks, like you said, someone like a Sean Mazak reports it or someone else, it can ruin that storyline, and AEW could have magic on their hands there. But KXI goes on to say it's a solid idea, Jonesy. They should have done this match at Elimination Chamber, alluding to your call there for Omos versus Brock Lesnar. I think that definitely makes a lot of sense there. Nuben Co in house as well. It says, hello, Steve and Jonesy. Thank you, Nuben Co, for checking the show out. Hope you are doing well. Hope everybody is doing well. And we've got KXI saying, if they really want Omos on the card, just have him face Braun at WrestleMania. That prove they can have a decent match. And that's actually a fairly good shout.
Yeah, it's a good shout. I think the thing is we've got to see almost back to the guy that won the tag team titles with AJ Styles. That very first match, I was really, really impressed with him. It's a case of getting him back to that level. But the big man attraction, big man's always Vince McMahon type style matches. That's another reason why I think Vince is kind of behind this a little bit.
There could be that case, and it does really hint the idea that Vince McMahon could be in control of it. But like you said, this would have been quite good as an idea to do as a backup, because I actually currently don't see where Braun Strowman fits on the WrestleMania card unless the Battle Royal returns.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not too sure. I don't think everybody's going to get on the card, although it's 2 nights. WWE's roster is so stacked now. It'd be a shame for him to miss out, but I have no idea. I can't see where he fit in, to be honest.
Neither can I at this moment. Keep your questions coming in, ladies and gentlemen. But in the meantime, we'll go on to our next topic. In fact, it's a question that came in before the stream, so I want to make sure that I did get it on. I've not noted it down anywhere, but Richard Rhodes did throw in a question before we came on today, so I thought I'd actually bring it up for you now, Jonesy. Coming off Monday Night Raw this past week, of course, Austin Theory retained the United States Championship, the Open Challenge match against Edge. Of course, Edge wanting to win gold. He's not had that opportunity since returning from WWE to actually be successful in that bid, of course, losing in Ontario, Canada. But the question that was asked there, because Finn Balor, of course, cost him that opportunity to get away from the Judgment Day, is there a chance that perhaps Edge could try and chance his arm over at SmackDown and try and go for the Intercontinental Championship against Gunther?
Interesting. I don't see it. I think this is very much a farewell tour now. Still think we're going to get Edge and Finn at WrestleMania. I think the Hell in a Cell element's gone. I think that they're not going to do that. But Demon versus Brood Edge is kind of the route I think it will go down, in all honesty. And it's how they keep this feud going. But it would be nice to see Edge make the save when Dominic attacks Ray on this coming week's SmackDown during that match with Cross. I think that's going to happen, to be fair. It should happen.
It would be really cool, actually, because I mean, we're making the mention of Edge there, and obviously people seem to flip between the shows anyway. Sammy Zayn, the SmackDown star, was on Raw this week. KO's been on SmackDown a lot recently as well, so we've seen people go between the shows. We know Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio will be actually on SmackDown this upcoming week as well. You mentioned about Dominic Mysterio costing Ray perhaps in his match with Karrion Cross. I think that's a shoe-in as well. We've got the face-to-face with Rhea and Charlotte. So in a way, Edge can try and go over to SmackDown, but it's not necessary that he would avoid the Judgment Day anyway between now and WrestleMania. So I think that's why I lean on your side, Jonesy. I don't think it will happen, but as a storyline narrative, I think it could be quite fun. And if Edge is on a farewell tour, a match between Edge and Gunther would be one that I'd be keen on seeing.
It'd be one for the ages, wouldn't it? Definitely. I think like you could
Absolutely.
just put that on there. I think that'll be another person for Gunther to add to his list. It's pretty impressive at the moment.
It really is. I mean, Gunther's been undefeated since coming to SmackDown. Obviously, Intercontinental Champion for well over 200 plus days now. I think he's on the way to 300 now. And obviously, by WrestleMania, I mean, depending on what the match you'll be in, you'd have to put him down as a heavy favourite. I actually think there's a chance Gunther could be a world champion in 2023.
I hope so. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to see him up there. I think the match with Drew as a singles or with Sheamus is a money match. It's the modern day version of Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho. It's got that exact same vibes. We know all the matches with Drew McIntyre and Sheamus have been incredibly hard hitting. They really take lumps out of each other, including the Donnybrook match. I think it will be really, really good. But this is a really good match for Gunther to be put in. And yeah, it's just interesting what they do. I think Gunther has outgrown that belt, though. For me, he could be a world champion. If we get 2 world titles again, he's one I'd definitely like to see up there. I could see him having a good reign with that belt. It makes total sense for him to progress from this title to the world title.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why Triple Threat makes the most sense for Gunther at WrestleMania as well. Put Drew and Sheamus in that same match. Gunther hasn't even got to be in the decision. It could be one of the other pinning the other two. That way, Gunther's not pinned still, and he's still undefeated going for that, or not pinned or submitted going for a world title later in the year. But let's move on. Noob and Co. First question for us today. Thank you, Noob, for your question here. Says, do you think that Asuka will be heel in her feud with Bianca Belair as evidence of Asuka drawing blue blood on Raw this week? Great question from Noob, and a take I wanted from you, Jonesy, on this one.
Yeah, she's going to be heel. Like it's the way to do it. I think all this blind sort of smoke or mist, even in the face, it's a heel tactic. Oscar's greatest work as a crazy is as a heel. She's going heel. It'll be the way that they do that. And for me, her as a really serious contender, she could be the one to stop Bianca Belair. This is the point really to change a belt, as I said on the Elimination Chamber predictions. I think Asuka as world champion, if she's really given the push, look at the way she's destroying people at the moment since she's come back. I think she's going to do all devilishly tactics. I call it all the time, Steve, but I'd love to see her take Bianca Belair's hair and cut it. Like I think that's something they've really got to look to do. This has got to be somebody that Bianca Belair looks to be scared of, really, to have that threat, if that makes sense. She doesn't seem to be fazed by a lot of people so far in all the challenges.
No, she doesn't seem to be faced. Bianca is willing to step up to any challenge that comes along, but Asuka, I mean, they did say on commentary as well, like this is just the first step of it getting how it's going to go with Asuka with the mind game. So I'm intrigued to see where it will go. I agree with Jonesy. I do think Asuka will turn heel, and I think the evidence has been there. The fact that she would even turn on her own partners. Of course, when we had the match building up to Elimination Chamber, she's not afraid to take out all comers on this. She's not trustworthy in any way. So I think that a heel Asuka definitely as well is a more dangerous Asuka. And obviously with this reincarnation of her character, which I have not been too familiar with, that other people have been with her previous work, I'm excited with what I'm seeing. And as Jonesy said, I think right now she is the right candidate to take that Raw Women's Championship from Bianca Belair, who at that point would have it for a full calendar year. It would freshen the Raw division up. It would freshen, well, Asuka's already freshened the character up. It freshens those rivalries for the championship. It ticks a lot of the boxes, Jonesy.
Yeah, it does. I think it's good to see Asuka back with a fair crack because obviously her previous incarnations have not been the best and she's very stop-start. I think this is the best incarnation we've seen in a long time. Let's not forget at the back of my mind, she was so good coming out of NXT. Like, if we can get her back to that level, you're going to have somebody that could be world champion for quite a long time now.
I think there is that ability there. I think we have the closest that we have had before of getting Asuka back to that dominant reign that we saw in NXT and the start of a main roster run. Tino's time in house. Tino, thank you very much for checking out the stream. Hope you were doing very well. I was very fortunate as well to be invited on Tino's time this past Sunday. He did a first of his WrestleMania watch along series that he's doing. He's gone from WrestleMania 2000, going to go all the way to WrestleMania 33 with multiple different live streams. So he's going to be a busy boy over the next few weeks, ladies and gents. So Tino's time, definitely worth a sub. I was there for WrestleMania 2000. It was a lot of fun. And Tino, I thank you for taking the time to invite me on there and just to talk about wrestling. It was completely stuff from modern, stuff about then, stuff about all random topics. It was a lot of fun. And if anyone has the time to spend a couple of hours checking it out, I do highly recommend it. And speaking of that as well, this evening as well, I will be joining West Coast Podcast. That will be 10 p.m. UK time and 5 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be talking about tag teams. We're going to talk about who is the Gigi Dolan, or should we say, better term, Marty Jannetty of each tag team that Zax is going to bring to my attention. So that's going to be a lot of fun discussions as well. If you've got an opportunity, check us out on 10 p.m. UK, 5 p.m. Eastern on the West Coast Podcast channel. Keep your questions coming in, ladies and gentlemen. Daz Reynolds back in with another one now. What do you think the announcement is tonight from Tony Khan, who is going in the Hall of Fame? Oh, also, who is going in the Hall of Fame? So there's two questions there for us there, Daz. Sorry, I've took that into one there for you. I thought, has AEW got a Hall of Fame starting already? Jonesy, take the first question for us. What do you reckon that announcement's going to be?
It'll probably be about Forbidden Door, like the sequel to Forbidden Door that will happen probably sort of in the summer. That seems to be a logical thing. I think that is probably what it can be. I can't see it being a talent acquisition. The way they've sort of marketed this is not about talent. It would be something to do with either Ring of Honor or AEW as sort of as a mate. It won't be probably another TV show, but it may be either another title or the Forbidden Door. Forbidden Door is probably an easy one to do. And the truth behind the Forbidden Door, I think ultimately the reason why he's really want to pitch that now is so he can get Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné on TV before WWE bring her back. That's what I think he's trying to do, in all honesty.
I think that'd be a very clever move as well. To be fair, was not in my mindset when I saw that question, but I think, it's a great shout. I was originally thinking with Ring of Honor, I know that they're now going to have the TV tapings coming back. I wonder if they were going to put more focus on that. Like you say, it's an important announcement, not like one of these major announcements. It's seen as important. Like I said, it's more on the business side. So I think Forbidden Door makes a lot of sense. Like I say, Mercedes Moné as well. If you bring her over, take on, I don't know, a Jamie Hayter, Tony Storm, Britt Baker. There's so many great matches you can put with the AEW women's roster, but also Saraya as well could be an interesting one, couldn't it, with the history there? But going into that also, another shout of potential what it could be. AEW, there's been rumors of a while of a streaming service. Now, obviously, got the Ring of Honor tape library acquisition there. There's still not really a placement. You can see all the previous episodes of Dynamite and the pay-per-views and stuff like that, unless they're still available on Fight. I don't know. But could you see him going to a streaming service at some point? I know that they're going to renegotiate a TV deal probably in the next sort of 12 months or so.
I think it would kind of make sense, like following the success of W Network, it kind of makes sense. The only thing I would say of AEW, because they've not really been around that long, the library they probably have as a tape library wouldn't be particularly big, which probably doesn't make it attractive. But if you are able to see the pay-per-views, I guess it could work. And that is probably something naturally to see, probably. I'd probably agree that's a good shout, actually.
What do you reckon if they were to try and get some more tape libraries, maybe with some independent promotions? I mean, obviously WWE have done that with some promotions, like I believe Progress, ICW was a couple of them that come to the top of my head. Would any of that interest you?
I think it might be all right if it's something that I can't get elsewhere. If you can't get it on YouTube or you can't get it elsewhere, I think the thing is you've got to sort of be careful. Whatever you get doesn't take away from AEW and the AEW roster as such, because really you want to get your eyes on the product, as many eyes as possible on the product, to get your own stars over before you get someone else's stars over, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. One thing I hope it's not is new championships. We've got enough of them going around, so let's not give us any more of them. But going on into the other question then, who is going into the Hall of Fame? Now, I did a video on this previously, Jonesy, so rather than give my answers first, I'd like to get your take who you believe is going in the Hall of Fame this year for WWE.
You want the controversial answer?
Go for the controversial answer.
Vince McMahon, I think, is a really good shout. Unfortunately, I think that despite his uproar, it wouldn't surprise me. He's going to have to go in there eventually, regardless of what he's done. So he's quite an easy one to do. In terms of other people, I'd quite like to see Batista in there. I think Batista sort of deserves to go in there. I think he's quite an easy one to do within reason. They're probably the two that I would do at this point. Vince McMahon, I probably think he has to, despite I don't agree with what he's done. He's obviously a historian in wrestling. The amount of stuff he's done for wrestling, without him now, we'd still be watching wrestling. Probably we wouldn't have WWE. We would have a WWF still, and it'd probably be in sort of smoky bars without television coverage. So, got to give him his due. I think Vince McMahon and Batista are the two I'd go for initially.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I remember you talking to me at the turn of the year when you said if the rumours of Vince coming back, don't be surprised if he's in the Hall of Fame. He wasn't in my video that I mentioned, but I do take the warning, put it that way. I don't see that it's not a possibility. I did have Batista as my headliner. Because I think obviously being Hollywood makes a lot of sense. We're not getting The Rock, for example. I don't think Cena would go in yet. So I think Batista would make a lot of sense. He is retired after all. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I think, is due out any point as well. He's done some other movies that have been making some headways as well. Some of the other names that I mentioned in there, trying to think off the top of my head, I think Umaga, I think, is a good shout with the Bloodline storyline coming to its culmination now. Solo Sikoa doing quite a few tributes to Umaga as well. I think it's a good time to throw him in the Hall of Fame. I have went with Psycho Sid, aka Sid Vicious. I think that he's probably most known for that leg break at Sin, but obviously he's been a part of 2 WrestleMania main events. He's been multiple-time world champion as well. I think 6 times overall in his career, twice in WWE, twice in WCW. As for tag team, I went with the Nasty Boys. Now, purely my hunch for this, someone made a shout for the Midnight Express. I'm not sure if they're not in, but that would be a great shout. But Booker T made a shout for the Nasty Boys on NXT on an episode, and I just thought, Booker's got some stroke. You've seen he's been on the commentary desk. You've seen that he was in the Royal Rumble. I wouldn't be surprised if the Nasties were given a shout to be in the Hall of Fame in the next sort of year or two. And the last one I mentioned was China on her own. Because we've had her with DX, but I've not seen her on her own. So that could have been quite fun to see. We've got Nubico with a suggestion, by the way, quickly, Jonesy, just before I get your answer on that. The Great Muta to be inducted by Oscar. What do you reckon of that? That's great.
Yeah, that's one I kind of probably would have said. I would have said the Great Muta's got a really good shout. Obviously, he's on this retirement tour. He's had that match with Nakamura, so I think that's one. And the last one I'd say is probably Lillian Garcia. I can see her going in. She's obviously been a historian with wrestling and announcing stuff. So it's quite an easy one probably to do. But I think Great Muta's a fantastic shout. Wouldn't surprise me at all. On the money there, Noob with that one. That's one of them I was going to say.
Oh, really? I'm sorry if it got.
No, sorry. I think credit to him. He's read my mind, so it's fine. It's nothing wrong with that. It's fine.
I like when people can read minds. That's good. But I love your shout, Lillian Garcia, as well. I think that's a really good suggestion there. That definitely, whenever it has potential. Let's just leave it at that. Something that definitely has got some potential as well is a great question from Noob and Co. Who do you think will be part of the freelancers as part of the first ever women's blood and guts match? For the freelancers, potentially you could get maybe Saraya, Tony Storm, Tay Mello, Ruby Soho, Athena, and Mercedes Monet. Perhaps 6 names there. I'll probably rule out Monet of that lineup, but I think that's a definitely solid lineup of the freelancers. But do you think they could do an all-women's blood and guts match for the first time this year? I mean, Britt Baker's no stranger to having a bit of blood and guts in her matches anyway.
That's it. Based on some of these really hard-hitting matches they've had, where they've had these street fights where they're literally taking lumps out of each other, and the amount of blood and the bumps that Ruby Soho is taking continually, I'd be a fan of that. I think the only concern with that, from like an AEW perspective, is they may think that might overshadow the men. They're not going to do 2. I don't think they'll do 2 matches with the same type. So it depends on how heated the men's feud is and where that's going. At this point, I have no idea.
Yeah, because you've always got someone like the Jericho Appreciation Society. It's like literally just that big group that's waiting already. But I would like to see it mix up and give it to the women this year. I mean, the JS have kind of faded into that mid-card area. Blackpool Combat Club are less on numbers than what they were a year ago. I mean, they needed to borrow Eddie Kingston anyway for that match at that point. So I actually wouldn't be against this. I mean, obviously you've got the likes then of, I don't know, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter. Imagine a returning Thunder Rosa, for example, Hikaru Shida. You know, there's some great shouts and people that could be great opponents for this as well. So I'm quite open-minded to that idea, Noob, but I think it's a fantastic suggestion and hope it comes together. But what if they could get Mercedes Monet?
That'd be good if they could. It'd be like Hulk Hogan, a bit Hollywood Hulk Hogan type level, wouldn't it, to be fair?
Yeah, absolutely. It would be for that sort of division, would make some headlines for sure. What do you DL put?
Would you put the Shield in the Hall of Fame this year?
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Thank you very much for clarifying that for me there, and apologies, Daz, there. But for me, John Moxley's in AEW. I think that's what delays that for the time being. Otherwise, I would be totally open-minded to it.
Yeah, for me, not at this point. I think the Bloodline's far overgrown the Shield. When the Bloodline kind of ends and there's none else going on, Roman's back to being on his own a little bit. I think you could do it down the line, but they deserve to go in at some point. But as you said, John Moxley, a few years ago, they were close to bringing him back to WWE. He didn't sign the contract. And that's kind of probably put the end of that with the Shield going into the Hall of Fame, unfortunately. They won't do it with just 2 people.
No, and the thing is as well, all of them are still active in the ring right now as well. Like a lot of them still aren't going to be in their prime as well. So don't think that they would be going in until they stopped at this particular point. But certainly, Daz, one day, without fail, the Shield will be a headline act for the Hall of Fame. I don't think there's any questions on that. But keep your questions coming in, ladies and gentlemen. But in the meantime, I have a question for Jonesy that I wanted to throw out there for you. And I know we were talking a little bit about this off air. I know we're not going to put those details out here for you right now. Don't worry. It's nothing that you've actually been spoilt on, ladies and gentlemen. So don't worry about it, but it is about the Women's Tag Team Championships. Now, there is a match that's been set for next Monday night on Raw. What do you feel with the situation of Becky Lynch and Lita going against Damage Control? And what are your thoughts of Trish Stratus, the plans that she was meant to be at Raw, according to PW Insider, but plans changed, so therefore it was dropped?
Yeah, I'm not too sure really what sort of transpired there in terms of Trish Stratus. All I would know is this: I can't believe where Becky Lynch is. Like she was so credible when she came back to be in the tag team titles. It does seem a bit of a waste of her because she, at one point, was one of the biggest drawing women in the company. In terms of the match itself, the match in room will be fine. It's great to see Lita back, but I don't know how they're going to get out of this without changing the belt. So for me, it's a DQ finish, particularly if you're going to do this match at WrestleMania potentially, which I think at WrestleMania, I put my prediction out there. I see Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler going for the tag team titles at WrestleMania. I think that's the route they're going to kind of go down. So for me, I think Damage Control are going to retain somehow, and I think it's a big match. But unfortunately, I don't know where Becky Lynch will be at WrestleMania. She's kind of left out in the cold, which is just crazy for someone that's as talented as her, really.
There you go, and there you go. James has actually shared that with you there. Actually, that was his prediction of actually giving. No, you should have said it. You should have said the fact that you went with that prediction there. It was Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler going for those women's tag team titles against Damage Control. But I mean, for me, I can't help, and I'm a dreamer here, Jonesy. I've got your prediction there for you, so I'm not trying to sway you by any way, shape, or form. But what about the fact that I still want this match, maybe not other people, but I still want Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey to share a ring. Could there not be the smallest, teeniest, tiniest chance that we could get Becky and Lita against Ronda and Shayna?
It could be good. Like, I think it could be one for the ages. I'm not too sure really how long Lita's current run is. Obviously, she's done some fantastic work when she has come back. It's great to go back to these legends for WrestleMania and stuff like that. But they've got so many good wrestlers already on the roster that are currently relevant. I do feel sorry for some of them that can't get on the card or can't get in that spot. And I'm just worried where this leaves somebody like Bayley that's not been particularly great since she came back at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, a fantastic talent, no question about that. But like you said, the booking's been very questionable. I feel like she's had umpteen losses against Bianca Belair, but she had the best showing for her was Clash of the Castle, wasn't it? Probably.
Yeah. I think the thing is that was a fantastic match. I think all the matches kind of they've had have been particularly kind of fun, but it's just a case of kind of where they do what they go with this. But I think the thing is they've got such a deep women's roster talent now without calling up anybody from NXT as well. It must be difficult to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, I imagine it must be difficult to keep everyone happy. Like I said, so much talent on the roster right now, and there's only so many spots for WrestleMania. But speaking of Clash of the Castle, Jonesy, C Nation Dog in the house, hope you're doing well, CD. Says the Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn match reminds me of Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. Now, you must know that better than most, there being in attendance for the Roman versus Drew match. Did you get those vibes watching that match there with Roman and Sami this past weekend?
It's amazing. Them type of moments you just can't predict, or you just can't do it. You can't have enough nights like that. It reminds me back to when we were younger, back in the Attitude Era, and you were having opening acts, getting the reaction like that. I think it's just you've got to sometimes just go with the crowd. I think sooner they get the belt off Roman Reigns, they could be a lot more organic, and they can do these title changes based on the crowd. I'm not saying you can change your belt every single month, but they'll never have a moment like that with Sami Zayn. I think to make him more champion. He could win the title in 3 or 4 months' time. It's not going to be as magical as it would have been this Sunday night.
No, I think it's just unfortunately it's just it just was bad timing. I think that's probably the way of putting it. If that was a Montreal show
match, I don't think they should have done the match at Chamber. To be fair, I know you can't keep it going and going and going, but for me, my idea, I pitched this to you off air many months ago, was they should have found a way for Sammy to get Money in the Bank briefcase off Austin Theory. I said that to you probably back in September last year. If they would have had that, they still could have at any point brought him into it. But it's my own personal thing. I'm a really massive fan of Sami Zayn. I think he does some fantastic work. Cody's not a bad wrestler either, though. But I'm not too sure the reaction Cody will get if he does win the belt at WrestleMania will be as good as what Sammy would have got the other night, even if there's more people in attendance.
We'll have to wait and see. It's a very fascinating statement because, like you said, Montreal was loud. And like you said, it was a hostile environment as well. There was Cena just said it reminded him of Cena versus RVD, that ECW style arena kind of vibes. They did have that sort of energy, that passion, that drive there. And like you said, you can redo it 100 times.
Can I ask you a question while on a Q&A?
Why not? That's what we're here for.
So do you see the fans, like this is controversial, put it out there, do you see the fans eventually turning against Cody Rhodes now because of ultimately Roman's too cool for school, so to speak? Roman's far too cool. When we get to WrestleMania, the fans won't really buy into Cody. Like, obviously he's done some fantastic work. He's got this history, this big journey. Do we think that ultimately the fans are going to turn on him and he's not going to be able to sort of deliver the reaction that Sammy got a little bit?
Interesting question. It's a money question as well. Comments, let us know your thoughts on this question. It's a great one from Jonesy. I think that fans will eventually turn on Cody. I don't think it'll be by WrestleMania. My worries with it is potentially the booking. So far, the booking has been perfect. It's been a chef's kiss on everything they've done with Cody so far, with the Sami Zayn promo, with Paul Heyman. Even this past week, even though in the back of my head I was thinking they're saying, can Cody handle the pressure? We know outside he's been kind of an EVP of another company. He's already put the blood, sweat and tears 365 into another company to make a competitor. But WWE can't mention that, can they? So I get why they did what they did. My main concern is, and I think this is the line that's going to get very old very quickly, is when he wants to start his promos and goes, "So what do you guys want to talk about?" Like, I think if you do it every single week, I think it's going to get to a point of like, I know it's your catchphrase, I know it's your line, but it should be used on a place where it's needed. Like after the Rumble made perfect sense. If you won the title, WrestleMania makes perfect sense, but it doesn't make sense every single week to me.
I think the thing with it, they've got to be really careful. Like, I think he'll be a great champion if he gets it. Whoever gets the belt of Roman will get that lift instantly. But I'm not too sure. I think he's far more comfortable as a heel. You can build him up and you can go for the sympathy vote and all this lot. But Cody's greatest work for me is as a heel. I think he's a great promo, don't get me wrong. But he could do the unthinkable. He could go into WrestleMania and actually lose and have to go a whole another year to try and get back. Would you want to see that? That's another question for me.
It's a big if. I mean, for me, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready for a change. I'm ready to see the title change. There's still great matches you can do with Roman. He could still go on another 12 months. I don't think there'd be a problem. But I think it's time. I think you said about fans turning on Cody. I think you'll get to a point now where I think the Bloodline storyline, it may just have peaked. Now the Sammy story's finished, I'm not sure if fans will tolerate another 365 days of it. So my feeling is, unless the breakup is within the Bloodline and it's Jey Uso that goes the full circle to take the title, I think for me that's where the title change is necessary. And I don't think fans will turn on Cody that quickly. I think if it's going to happen, I think you're talking around SummerSlam, Survivor Series. That's the era I think it will be. But it all comes down to the booking. We've even mentioned the idea of Vince McMahon's in control. Can change in 3 weeks in Vince's booking, in my opinion, in the modern day, because I just believe that, I don't want to say he's out of touch because he's done some great things, even some little tweaks and other little things where you go, that's genius. But like you said, there's so much inconsistency with booking and ripping up scripts and stuff like that, that I think that's the sort of stuff that could really harm Cody in a very, very short term, because up to now, everything has been very well done on his return.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think the thing is, what I'm hoping if he does get the belt is we get 2 world champions. That's what I really miss in WWE. Like, it's quite good to have variety. There's nothing wrong with Roman having the belt for forever, but it's nice to have another wrestler with a world title. So we have got 2 world champions going into WrestleMania, or at WrestleMania, instead of just 1 world title match.
I completely agree. I mean, I'm looking forward to when the championship split now at this point, just because of the fact that we are supposed to have a champion for Raw, champion for SmackDown. If everyone's under the same roof, different. Or if they made the perks of 1 champion, have 1 title, then it's a bit different again. But yeah, like you said, how it's going to be at the moment, they need to make new stars. And the way to make more than 1 star is have 2 world champions at this moment. If you have Cody on top on one side, you have Gunther on top on the other side, that can be pretty awesome. Like, that makes 2 new stars immediately overnight.
It'd be really controversial. Now, this is probably really crazy, Steve. I'm putting you on the spot now. Do we see Paul Heyman doing the unthinkable and turning on Roman at WrestleMania, like a double turn with Cody going heel, maybe? And that's the way he gets the belt?
For
the
me,
Bloodline's
no.
going to be into total disrepair by that point anyway, I think.
They probably will. For me, no. But my reasoning for it is I think that the Bloodline is going to explode from within. I think that Jey Uso will turn on Roman Reigns, and I think he'll have the support of Jimmy and Solo after Roman loses the championships, because they'll lose their titles as well. And I think that that's where the cracks will begin. I think we'll get Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam this upcoming year.
Sounds really good.
Let's get back into the comments, because they're starting to flood in now, Jonesy. We've given a break for you to get some new questions in. I'll tell you what, you've filled us in with quite a bit. CNH says, I think that the Shield will go into the Hall of Fame. The Ultimate Warrior and Vince McMahon had beef for years, and the Ultimate Warrior is in the Hall of Fame. They certainly have, and obviously that means other names potentially could do that as well. But like we say, one day we think the Hall of Fame will.
You got to put the Macho Man in there, Randy Savage. I know there's that alleged incident with Stephanie McMahon that's an internet rumor that why he's in there. I'm not going to go into that, but I think he should go in the Hall of Fame. This guy, growing up as a kid, was one of the wrestlers that stood out.
Absolutely. I mean, you still watch his work now. It still stands with the test of time. I completely agree with Randy Savage. KXI is saying they definitely will, but just not this year, or honestly, anytime soon. Like I say, probably when they stop and hang the boots up, that's more than likely. C Nation says Austin Theory pinning Edge on a episode of Raw is a big deal. I have to agree, especially in Canada as well. It's a very big deal. Even if there was help from Finn Balor, a massive deal. And Theory, like I said, we thought he'd retain at Elimination Chamber. We spoke about the idea of him starting an open challenge then with John Cena in mind.
Well done.
And it seems to be coming. I mean, John Cena's meant to be on Raw in 2 weeks as well. So it feels like that we're not going to even have to wait till WrestleMania to make that match completely official. This is a big time for Austin Theory. I mean, what we thought about 3 or 4 months ago with him with Money in the Bank and it all going wrong with that cash-in, Theory's turned it around leaps and bounds. He's got real star potential to be one of the top stars in the future.
He has turned it around. He's really, really turned it around. I think if I'm putting it out there, Austin Theory, John Cena, WrestleMania. Theory isn't winning clean. Theory will go over, I'm sure, but he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it clean. I can't see John Cena putting him over clean. And it would be a real shame if he dropped the United States title to John Cena. So Theory has to win and then go from strength to strength. I'd love to see Theory and Braun Breaker be like a massive feud for the United States title, sort of at some point this year.
SummerSlam would be a perfect one for that. I would love to see that as well, Jonesy. Another great shout there as well. Well, I mean, Braun Breaker definitely seems to have a main roster call in his very near future. Cedric says he feels bad for Brock Lesnar. He's getting a match with Omos at WrestleMania. Lol. It was the top topic we talked about here today of whether we think plans are changing, why we think this was even put together. So do go back and check the bit out if you've missed it. But yeah, it's a strange one. I think that's the short answer we can give with that. It definitely seems to have come out of left field. He says the fans are fickle as well. When their favorite wins a title, they turn on them. So I mean, that's C Nation's answer there with the Cody stuff. I mean, it has happened a lot of times in the past. Could it happen in the future?
I think it's a fair point, but I'd argue that point that it's not really the fans turning on the wrestler; it's the fans turning on the bad booking. If the wrestler's booked correctly, he's got proper opponents, and the feuds are built up properly, and there's storylines that matter. They're probably going to turn on less. It's when they're just thrown into rematch after rematch after rematch where you're probably going to turn it and you get bored, which is what's kind of happened with Roman in large parts over his run.
I think it's a fair point. I think it's a fair comment you make there, Jonesy. I won't lie to you about that there. KXI says, nah, they ain't turning on Cody. Sorry, but nah, mate. Roman probably going to mention his dad, make Cody really sympathetic. And I mean, did you not see the promo of Paul? They ain't turning on him. To be fair, I mean, like I said, up to this point, it's been absolute perfection. So that's why I don't see it happening in the near future. But long future could be a bit different once he's been champion for a while. And now after the fact, I don't know, maybe it depends on who Cody feuds with. If he feuds with the guys like Logan Paul, he should definitely be cheered low. That's certainly a good point. One that NXT mentioned as a potential first feud for Cody. Now, since we rumors he is actually going to make a comeback, would probably make a lot of sense. What if Randy Orton returns the night after WrestleMania to set up a feud for them for WrestleMania Backlash? There's a lot of history there.
I think that would be good to see. I think it's the right idea to bring Randy Orton back like in that spot. As long as he's match ready to go and he can do like a regular run and a regular feud. We don't know what condition Randy's coming back in. He may need to just do promos for a while, but that would be a good first feud if it happens. It's something new, isn't it?
It's something fresh and something exciting, and I think that would keep fans cheering for a bit while. They'll probably be happy if Randy's back, but if Randy's Randy's self, I think he's
he needs
very
to be a
talented.
heel. This time, He has to be a heel. He's not really that comfortable as a babyface, I don't think.
Especially if he's being a solo actor. We're not seeing Riddle for a very long time now.
Yeah,
I'm not sure when Riddle does return. Richard Rob says, and Richard, how are you doing? By the way, thank you for checking out the stream. And we did answer your question earlier on about the Edge and versus Gunther potential. It was around 14 minutes into the stream. I even kept a little note on the time for when it was there for if you want to go back and check it out. He says, do you think JC Jane needs a tag team partner to face Gigi Dolan and Indy Hartwell? If so, who is it? Elektra Lopez or Lash Legend? Now, I must admit, I've not seen NXT this week as of yet. So if they are doing this idea of Gigi and Indy Hartwell, perhaps against JC Jane. Who do you reckon JC Jane would get in as backup of the NXT roster?
I don't really watch NXT, so I really couldn't give a great educated guess. I don't watch NXT, so I wouldn't know. Maybe they'll go to who's that one that had that feud with Alba Fire that's been called up from she's in NXT UK. I forgot her name. Isla Dawn. That's maybe they'll go to. Maybe, yeah.
That would be an interesting team there. I'm going to go with Zoe Stark, one of Richard's favourites, purely because not just because one of Richard's favourites, but I think actually she could actually be a good fit for that match. So that's why I think that's who I would pick. But GGJC, I can't wait for when that's going to go down. That should be a really interesting match. C-Nation goes on to say the Bloodline can't keep adding members to stay fresh. It will eventually get old. I think the Bloodline storyline should end at WrestleMania because Roman Reigns is going to Hollywood. Well, he is literally going to Hollywood at WrestleMania. Will be the first shout on that. But I mean, yeah, perhaps Roman will have that in his future. Whether it be the near future, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, he has got a part-time schedule. But I mean, obviously, would you say that the Bloodline is old to you at this point?
They've done a fantastic job at dragging it out, but for me, yeah, I'm kind of done. Like it's the same, not the same thing, but it's always a carbon copy. The numbers game, whoever Roman faces, loads of interference, and then he always retains. So yeah, I think I'm kind of done with it. It's just a case of where they go next. I think the finish is obviously dropping the Usos, dropping the tag team titles, Roman losing the world title. It's just who comes out of it. There's nothing stopping Roman dropping the belt and then having singles feuds where he can actually be pinned now because he hasn't got that streak and he hasn't got that hanging over him. Look for them to do a Sami Zayn Roman Reigns feud probably after WrestleMania. I think that's something they'll probably do where Sami does get the win.
They could revisit it, and I think that would be a really good idea to do so, Jonesy. I like that suggestion there. Really do like that a lot. Alicia has got her take on the Cody Rhodes idea. Being the next John Cena, you could boo him, love him, it will be the same. So, I mean, that's actually a really good argument that's been presented. We talk about, would people boo him? Will people cheer him? Well, what if it's that mixture that we've been used to seeing with, like, let's go Cena, Cena sucks. What if we get to have a Cody at some point?
It depends. Like, you're going to have people that are obviously there for Roman Reigns, that are Bloodline fans that don't want to see him lose. There are going to be people there that are annoyed that Sami Zayn didn't win. They're still going to be annoyed. And there's going to be people that just want something new. But I think the thing is, WWE have just got to do this. They've got to go all the way with Cody. Now, they've gone through all this for the Royal Rumble. For him not to get the belt at WrestleMania will just be such a waste of him going all the way in the Rumble, really, from where he came in.
Be interesting how it will be. I think actually, listen, maybe onto something. I don't think that, as KXI said earlier, maybe not everyone will boo him, and obviously they shouldn't boo him yet. He's doing too far good of work at this moment to be booed yet. But maybe some point further down the line. But it's an interesting topic. I do like that topic a lot. Sinisha says, I think Gunther should lose the Intercontinental title to Sheamus at WrestleMania, but he won't get pinned. So then we can beat Cody Rhodes' first challenger, or so he can be Cody's first challenger. I mean, obviously, we've said already, Gunther versus Cody does feel like a money match. Obviously, the final two in the Royal Rumble. Where would you like to see this go down? Obviously, C Nation suggesting the idea of WrestleMania Backlash, or Backlash, as I like to call it. Where would you think this match would be suitable down the line?
I think it would be quite good for SummerSlam. Maybe this is a huge match. The only problem is the minute you put Gunther in a world title match where he's not actually been pinned at all, that's a streak that's on the line. Unless you're going to go to a screwy finish at the end, Cody can't lose it. If it's a match at SummerSlam where Cody can then drop the belt, I'm a fan of it. Whenever Gunther's in that world title match, he needs to win the belt really to carry on that legacy of being unbeaten. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless it's a triple threat, that's the way that you can get around it. I think it would be the best way to do it. Dan says, do you think when Randy comes back that he could turn on Riddle? I certainly hope so.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I think the thing with Riddle and Randy, that's kind of all been forgotten about. Like, they had so much sort of building up before, obviously, both of them went their separate ways, so to speak. Maybe. I'm not too sure if it'll turn him. It's one of the things where I'd really like to see Riddle when he comes back as a new type of character. I could see him pulling off a sort of an arrogant Mr. Perfect type character, totally opposite of what he has been doing. He needs a new gimmick, really, for me. I think the heel turn's kind of what we need to see instead of sort of this entrance that's just really stupid, and Scooter's and all this other stuff, as we said before.
I think he has a goofy side, Riddle, and like you said, when he plays serious, he really can get behind the guy. He's definitely got some talent behind there. So, like you say, maybe something to freshen it up would probably be a good thing. I wonder how people would take to it.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
I would like to see it as well, personally. But I think there's a potential Randy could do that for continuity of the story. Okay, so says, I feel Gunther losing the title but not being pinned is a waste. So, no one gets the rub. Imagine Roman losing the titles but not being pinned to do so. Totally get the argument. I think the only difference I can put with that to sort of give a twist on it, Roman is the guy at the top. Gunther is still the guy you're building for the top. I totally get that someone could get that feeling of getting the pin over Gunther. But if you go back to when Bobby Lashley was United States champion for a very, very long time as well, and he went on to then become the world champion, defeating Miz to go into WrestleMania 37, the way they took the belt off of him was a triple threat match. I believe Riddle and John Morrison were the two other competitors in that match. So that's the difference I would put towards it. But I do think XI does make still a good point as well.
Yeah, he does.
He does indeed. Richard Robes here saying maybe JD McDonough might injure himself using TikTok before their rivalry can be over. Duke Hudson is Dragunov's a worthy opponent. Obviously, Jonesy not been following too much NXT, but Dragunov and JD McDonough, or Jordan Devlin, have been having quite a feud going on NXT. With Duke Hudson, I'm not sure of his role right now. I assume he's still with Chase U, but I'll check.
Wasn't he trying to chase the girl from Chase U? That's the last thing I kind of heard. He was trying to chase her for weeks, and he was trying to screw over the leader of Chase U, basically. I can't remember.
It kind of is on the inside, but he's still kind of seen as the baby face at the moment. You see him do little things from background, but it's not come to full blowout for my knowledge as of yet. But Alyssa says Vince McMahon is creative. What fault? Why is go back to the way to get with him? I'm sorry, Alyssa, I've not read that very well there for you. But obviously, why is Vince McMahon creative? I suppose why is he back? Obviously,
because he's got the shares. He's got the majority of the shareholder. He couldn't stay away. He's got enough money to pay off whatever allegations. And for me, it must be such a demotion for Triple H. Triple H did a fantastic job in large parts getting everybody back into it. He's hired all them wrestlers back now that are probably going to, I wouldn't say they lose a job again, but it's got to be kind of a scary time, particularly if you were fired under Vince McMahon for him to be back now in such a prevalence.
I did see on Wrestle Talk earlier on today that apparently certain wrestlers are apparently meant to be walking on eggshells.
Oh, poor
So
guys.
morale could be lower once again, which is a shame to see. You don't want to see that. People do their best work when they're happy as well. So for me, it's a bit disappointing if that is the case and scenario. But like you said, there he's the one selling it as well. So I suppose he wants it sold in the vision that he wants the company to be going forward. C Nation says, fun fact: if Edge won the United States title on Monday, it would have been the first person to be a two-time Grand Slam champion and two-time Royal Rumble and Money in the Bank winner.
Wow.
There you go. There's a lot of stuff there on Edge. Certainly had the briefcase twice anyway and cashed it in successfully twice there. So totally know where C Nation is going there. It's definitely a fun fact. Richard here saying, hope we can see Liv Morgan turn on Charlotte Flair. Attacking from behind the WWE SmackDown, shocking fashion. Liv wants Ronda. Instead, it was Charlotte. Well, obviously, Liv has been a bit more of let's just say a crazy character as of late, but I don't see it getting involved in anything in the top end.
This whole heel turn was going to happen after a sort of Extreme Rules type time. They kiboshed it. They were thinking about it. They started to work on that. She was meant to originally go with Uncle Howdy. That was the pitch they were going to do, and they then switched out to Alexa Bliss. And it's kind of, she's not really recovered. She's obviously been kind of stuck just in between, which it's a shame, really. I think she's a really good wrestler, shown in Elimination Chamber. They just need to give her a gimmick that works. I think she's really sort of a fun-loving babyface. The heel side of things, unless she's really going to elevate that to a different level. You've already got Nikki Cross doing the craziness. You've got Oscar doing the craziness. There isn't room for Liv Morgan to do it as well, I'm afraid.
No, and I think it seems like she's got a bit of a partnership starting with Raquel Rodriguez as well. So I think they could be definitely a team that could be looking to rival Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey going into WrestleMania. KXI says, when do we see Matt Riddle coming back? I think they're doing him versus Solo, but he hasn't been back yet. Wonder why. He's finished the rehab, to my knowledge, Riddle. So I think it's when they've got the creative plans for him. Of course, Solo was the one that wrote him off. That was a predicted WrestleMania match for me as well. But now I predict he'll be back the Raw after Mania.
Yeah, it makes sense to obviously delay it. It's a shame he won't be on that card because he's a fantastic wrestler. He's worked with Seth Rollins, particularly Clash of Castles, was insane live. And it's a shame he's had these obviously personal issues. But then Rob Van Dam had these personal issues and he was still a fantastic performer. So it's not always the worst thing.
Absolutely. We're going to just say, ladies and gentlemen, in the last 10 minutes of the stream for us today. So we're going to get through the comments as best as we can between now and then. So maybe best to not throw any more in to make sure we can get everybody on. KXI says, imagine Cody, Sammy, Kevin, and Matt Riddle versus the Bloodline. Huge 8-man tag. There would be a big 8-man tag, wouldn't it? Perhaps that's the sort of thing you could even do a Raw after Mania.
Yeah, would imagine that in War Games. That would have been incredible.
Oh, yeah, it would have been tasty. Would have liked that indeed. C Nation says that Triple H has ruined Matt Riddle's popularity. I wouldn't say Triple H has necessarily done it.
It's obviously WWE's wellness policy and personal issues, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that could be the case there. Richard says Electra Lopez and JC Jane versus Gigi Dunn, Indy Hartwell would be his answer to the question. I like that. Electra Lopez, well, very underrated talent. Obviously, at one point was with the Legado del Fantasma, of course, no more. But yeah, it could be good to give her an opportunity in that place there, Richard. Like that comment a lot. I have a feeling Roman Reigns versus Jonesy will happen at SummerSlam, says C Nation. Great minds think alike, my friend. That's all I can say with that. And obviously, we see as well, C Nation saying, I see Sheamus winning the IC title at WrestleMania. It's time he becomes a Grand Slam champion. It's amazing to think, isn't it? And do you think that it would be the right place at WrestleMania since it wasn't done in Cardiff?
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I think either him or Drew would be refreshing. Both of them are ex-world champions. And I'd like to see them. But I think both of them are far too good for the Continental title, in all honesty. Although that's got great prestige with Gunther's reign so far. Further prestige.
It has got further prestige. It's almost starting to become the title that we grew up with again, and I'm really liking that. And obviously, that gives away our age, sadly. But I can only apologise to Jonesy about that because you guys are used to it with me. Yeah. Alicia says it's unfortunate. Yeah. I feel it every day, mate. Do you feel next year The Rock versus Roman Reigns? The Rock doesn't want a title in the match. Do you see it perhaps at WrestleMania 40?
I'd hope so. I thought it'd be this year, to be fair. I really thought we'd get it this year. I was really bugging Steve off air saying we're going to get it. It'll be at the Rumble, and really disappointed. Maybe, but then I can't keep delaying this match. It's one of them things. And if you're talking about sort of based on your last comment, Steve, as well about our age and stuff, I've been watching wrestling since 1991. How old's that? There you go. Well, I want to.
32 years. Yeah. 32 years. So yeah, and I'm 1 year later. 92 was for me. WrestleMania 8 was the starting ground. I would like to see it, Alyssa. I thought, like Jonesy, it would have been this year if it was going to be. Hollywood seemed like the perfect destination for it. Philadelphia, the scene of where they were both in that Royal Rumble, where Roman and Rock were booed out of the building, doesn't feel like the one, does it?
No, I did hear something that the reason why this year they struggled was there isn't really a great rapport between Triple H and The Rock. Apparently, Vince McMahon's got a really good rapport with The Rock. And Triple H, there was issues about what the finish was going to be in the match supposedly, but I'm surprised they couldn't do it because the bloodline obviously isn't. I don't know how hot it's going to be in a year's time. This would have been the match to do it, particularly Roman dominating everybody and his ancestors and all the other stuff. This would have been the time to do it, but I think they should just part of the match. I don't think they should do it now, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think they have to find the right placement if they're going to do it. I still would like to see it. I'm just not sure if it will be at WrestleMania 40. But if it is, no titles will be involved. Maybe it would be the perfect way to do it.
It might be good still.
Yeah, we would have to wait and see. Okay, so it says I want Gunther to break the record for the IC title. If they do it at Clash of the Castle 2, they're doing Money in the Bank instead this year. Have Gunther versus Sheamus as the main event. Excuse me, and Sheamus wins it clean is how he would do it. What if they Clash 2 next year? I mean, that could always work. Obviously, they did the Money in the Bank ticket sales today. They've released them on pre-sale.
They rip people off.
And they're an absolute bomb. They are.
I looked at it and I could probably afford to go, but I just wasn't going to bother. Like based on everything we got, the arena they've got is a really small arena here in England. It's not particularly a big one. When you've got Tottenham Stadium down the road that's similar capacity to the Clash of Castle, it's total idiocy from WWE. They've underestimated the popularity, really.
I think so as well. I think they could have easily done a 50, 60,000, even like with the London Stadium as well. Triple H is meant to be at West Ham.
I think they should have done SummerSlam, in all honesty. You keep going back to SummerSlam 92. It's something that should happen. And Money in the Bank, it's got the same relevance as a Capital Carnage for me. Like, yes, you're going to get a briefcase, a winner of a briefcase, but what are you going to have in terms of talking point? It's not an A-star pay-per-view for me. It is a B. It's not a bad pay-per-view, but when you've got SummerSlam, WrestleMania, and Rumble, and Survivor Series, they're the top four for me.
Absolutely. Although I must admit, as a fan that doesn't really get these shows very often, I suppose we should be happy with what we get.
We should be happy we got something. Yes.
We definitely got to be happy we get something.
They make their money.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to make their money. There's no problem on that. But with Kate's idea there, I do like it. And I mean, I do believe that Gunther's time to the top will come sooner than later. But Honky Tonk Man, keep an eye out. Your record could be broken by Gunther. Sinister says it's kind of sad to see Drew McIntyre go into the tag team division after he carried the pandemic ember. I hope he gets one more reign at the top. I think that time will come. I think when the belts are split, that's when you see these stars like Drew McIntyre probably come to the forefront once again.
Yeah, I think you will. I think there's nothing stopping Drew McIntyre going back round. He would have probably won the belt in card if it had been anybody but Roman Reigns as champion.
Absolutely. C Nation believes that Matt Riddle's suspension, but he was doing nothing before. Has a feeling that it's because of Randy Orton getting injured. I would say that his feud with Seth Rollins was pretty decent before. And I know that after that, though, the bongos with Elias maybe gives C Nation his point.
Yeah, that's where he kind of started falling down when he had that bongo thing with Elias. He was in the tag team matches that didn't happen and stuff. But they've just got to bring him back. I think without Randy Orton there, he's a bit missing, but it makes sense for him to do something new.
It does indeed there. Shout out as well to the Dirty Heels podcast as well. Kofi in the house, we live, baby. We are indeed fantastic content on Kofi and Dirty Heels podcast. Make sure to go check them out on YouTube and on Twitch as well. Also, we've got here Richard saying Matt Riddle could go unhinged after his popularity, and then he attacked Bobby Lashley on Raw. It didn't used to work out for him when he used to do that a couple of years ago, but certainly an unhinged Riddle, would that make more sense for you, a more serious side of the character?
It's something new, isn't it?
It certainly is. We're open-minded to it, Richard. That's what we're going to say on that as an answer there for you. And CH says, I just wish the Intercontinental Championship was defended on more pay-per-views and not more on go-home shows. I agree with that, but that's because the IC title is my favorite championship. I'm not going to lie to you. I grew up loving that title. It hasn't changed even through some of the, let's say, bad booking it's had over the last 20 years, although Gunther is doing so well in restoring it.
Yeah, he has done a good job of bringing credibility back.
Absolutely. Well, we're down to the last 2 minutes, guys. We've got 4 comments to go through. Let's keep it at those 4 comments. If not, I may not get to them. So just pre-warning for that now. Richard says Edge might get Brood vibes after being attacked by Finn Balor next week at Raw. I mean, a Brood Edge versus a Demon Finn is something I would like to see at WrestleMania.
Adds another layer, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Xander, thank you, Xander, for your checking in here on the podcast. Here it says if Cody wins at WrestleMania, he can then relinquish the Universal Championship, the SmackDown after WrestleMania 39. Cody giving opportunities like Shane McMahon was back in SmackDown in 2016. Jonesy, would you like to see it?
Yeah, I think it'll be good. It's what they do with that. If we get another world champion out of it, then fine. Yeah, it's something new. I think Cody having 2 belts, I'm not really a fan of it. I just want him to have 1 world title and then we'll get another world title. Each brand should have a world title, as you said earlier.
And I kind of agree with that. I mean, I want to see that because of that's what it's meant to be. If it was seen as the dumb thing, you go to Raw and SmackDown, but don't have 2 championships. This is why I like this idea as well, because Cody has actually made it clear he wants the WWE Championship. He's not said anything about the Universal Championship. He says he wants that WWE title for Dusty. So I can see that as potential, Xander. I'm not ruling it out. In fact, even C Nation agrees the idea. He says that should happen, and the Winged Eagle title gets revealed. C Nation, stop! Don't do this to me. You know I want to see that championship make a return. Jonesy, was you a big fan of the Winged Eagle?
Yeah, it's classical, isn't it?
Is it your favourite?
It's one of my favourites. I think that I quite like the WWE World Title though as well. To be fair,
That's a gorgeous
big
championship.
gold belt.
Really, really is. Oh, the big gold belt. It's one of the hard ones to beat there. Listen, with our final comment, it says, "Do the greatest reign, longest time Roman Reigns storyline for a long time." Well, Roman has had, he's arguably been seen as one of the greatest ever after this reign. Over 900 days, it'll be near 1,000 by WrestleMania. Should he make it to the 1,000 as well? In a modern era of how wrestling is now, I mean, Bruno Sammartino, a great one of the longest reigning championship reign, I think, of all of them. But they didn't wrestle like they do today. The amount of times, the amount of schedule, and stuff like that. So, I mean, Roman Reigns has got to be up there, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's incredible. Like the reign they've done, the way it turned around, everyone's thoughts by the heel turn, and then he came back. It's really inventive. What I'd put out there, Steve, my last kind of comment for you on this would be: would he have had such a long reign without help of the bloodline and without being a heel? If he was a babyface, could have he pulled off a 1,000-day reign? I don't think he could have.
Maybe not, but then would we have enjoyed it as much? I think
No,
that's also the other thing there. I mean,
controversy.
obviously, it is controversy.
Cash.
It does indeed. And I've got to say, the
Everybody
controversial thing, I still love when Solo debuted via Clash of the Castle, as much as I know that
was good live. It was clever. It was inventive.
It was inventive indeed there. And Kate's nice saying, fun stream, guys. Can't wait for the next. And I've got to say, big thank you to everyone who has watched this stream. Just to say very quickly, I will be live on West Coast Podcast in about 20 minutes time. I've actually put it in my community post. You can see it on the scroll there, the link of that video. I will actually put it in the description of this video in 2 minutes time if you want to find it there. Myself and Zach will be having a fun little stream, so make sure you check us out over there in 20 minutes time. But before we do depart today, I want to say a big thank you to Jonesy Chats Wrestling, who's taken the time to come on today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been good to do in a Q&A. And yeah, always good to be here, Steve. Thank you for having a fantastic channel. Thank you for all the comments and questions.
If I can't get you before Jonesy, can I get you for WrestleMania?
Yeah, we'll be on WrestleMania predictions. It's probably going to be a 2-hour stream or something, isn't it? How are you going to do it?
I'm worried I might have to do them night by night this year because they're getting that popular at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see. But if not, we will try and do an action way of how we're going to do it. I'm going to try and make sure that the stream isn't 4 hours long. But what I'm going to say is that in the meantime, anyway, thank you to Jonesy. Thank you to the chat. Thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like button. Subscribe to SCW if you're new here as well. And like I say, share with a friend. Word of mouth helps the channel grow. That's how we get anywhere. Thank you for all of you with your fantastic questions. These videos are nothing without you. But that's all from us anyway. We think Brock and Omos is, well, it's weird. It's out left field. Perhaps is the plan for WrestleMania, but I'm hoping it won't be. I'm hoping it's a swerve and we get the Hurt Business back next Monday on Raw, and Bobby Lashley versus Brock is still the plan. But anyway, look after yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.